sitting here at the Comfort Inn North, where I'm actually spending the night, but we're also talking with John Byrne, one of the most extraordinary creators in the comics industry today. And John, I suppose we could start
by saying you're not spending the night with me.
That's right. John will be leaving after the interview. And I mean, your career has spanned over 20 years so far.
Just under 20 years.
Under.
Yeah.
We're close to that 20 year mark.
I claim to the fact that it's less than 20 years.
But it would be, I'm sure everybody knows the history of John Byrne's work and so forth. But what I'd like to start by asking you is there a period in your career that you remember more fondly than any other period, particularly in your early years?
The early years? Well, the period that I always remember most fondly is my work on the Fantastic Four, which I guess almost counts as early these days, since it's like 6 years ago. I have a fondness for several chunks of my career. I much enjoyed my Charlton days. There was a great deal of freedom back then, rather more than people really have these days. I was rewriting all the scripts, having a good time with it. I also did my first professional writing. My first writing credit was at Charlton. The X-Men stuff, of course, is fondly remembered. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it again, no matter how much money they threw at me. And as I say, the Fantastic Four, and most recently, She-Hulk, I think, has been my sort of favorite thing. The first 8 issues I enjoyed a lot.
As we're talking about your earlier period in comics, I wonder if there's ever a time when you wish you were working on those second-string books again.
Well, yeah, in many ways I did, because I never expected to be John Byrne. When I was fantasizing as a fan about the levels I would achieve, I always thought, I'll be the guy who does Iron Man. Because I always thought Iron Man was like the #1 second-string book. So I figured that would be as high as I would ever get. Which is one of the reasons that, of course, so much of the superstardom always just seems so silly to me, because I never really expected it. Yeah.
Well, looking over your body of work for the last close to 20 years or so, it seems that stylistically you haven't changed that much.
I hope I've gotten better.
But I wonder if you're going to go through some major transformation one of these days, like a Frank Miller or Bill Sienkiewicz or something.
I wonder about that myself. I frequently see little quantum leaps happening in my work. I'm seeing a lot of Joe Kubert in my stuff right now, especially on the next Men, or John Byrne's next Men, to give it its correct title, which was Dark Horse's idea, not mine. I do wonder if 10 years from now I'll suddenly have turned some gigantic corner and be utterly unrecognizable, and of course all my fans will turn on me and pelt me with rocks.
Well, let's jump ahead for a moment and talk about some of your current work for Dark Horse. Because I wonder what you think when you see your work in Dark Horse Presents beside that of Frank Miller and Gray Morrow. I wonder what your perspective is. How do you see yourself in relation to the comics industry?
Well, that was a funny thing, because I picked up that coffee table book about Marvel, Marvel history or whatever it was, a couple of weeks ago. And I'm on, it seems like, every other page. And I thought, well, this is wrong, isn't it? I mean, I'm not this big a chunk of Marvel. And then I had this realization that if you kind of skip over the stuff that isn't really Marvel, the timely stuff, and I've been there for like half of Marvel. I've been there since 1975, and Marvel started in 1961. And it was kind of this stunning realization that, yes, John, you are not a footnote in the history of comics. You are a chapter. And, so yeah, I feel fairly comfortable to put myself in there with the Frank Millers and the George Perez's and all those guys who started at the same time I did. And then there's the strata above, there's the Chris Swans and the Joe Kuberts and the guys who've been around forever and who really know what they're doing, Jack Kirby's.
Well, in fact, I'm glad you brought up Jack Kirby's name, because in some ways I liken your career to that of Jack Kirby, and in fact you've always taken over the Kirby books and returned them back to the Kirby-esque style. Do you see yourself as the next Jack Kirby? I mean, do you feel that you're filling his shoes?
Gee, I wonder. It would be extraordinarily egotistical, even for me, to see myself as the next Jack Kirby. I have been frequently called the next Jack Kirby. I don't know if I entirely agree with the concept. I'm not sure that comics as they are today could produce a next Jack Kirby. I mean, Jack has this phenomenal career. I mean, he invented comic books, for all intents and purposes. I can't see anybody of the current generation, and by the current generation I mean anybody sort of me and since, really achieving that kind of level, because the industry is so different. I mean, Frank Miller, for example, has disappeared sort of into movies and stuff, and I'm sticking my nose into novels and things like that, so that you don't get that kind of massive body of work forming. I've got almost 20 years behind me. Will I have 40 years? Will I have 50 years? I don't know.
Do you think there's a certain cynicism that keeps you from thinking that someday you'll achieve what Jack Kirby did? I mean, is there something in your mind that makes you think that those days are gone?
Well, we're sort of forced into a cynicism nowadays. I mean, comic books today are far more money-making, event-oriented than they were. In the Lee and Kirby days. I mean, Lee and Kirby sold something on the order of 300,000 copies of the Fantastic Four every month, which they sold to 300,000 readers. You sell 7 million copies of the X-Men, you're not selling it to 7 million readers. The marketplace is a whole different thing. And the marketplace as it is today doesn't create a Jack Kirby, as it doesn't really create a Spider-Man or a Fantastic Four.
So creatively, what keeps you from getting so disgusted with it? Is it something like the next Men, where you get a chance to break out and try something completely different?
Yeah, well, creatively, as long as I can sit in my own little corner and do the stuff I'm happy with. I mean, I've said in print before that I would rather have 100,000 people buying my comic who I know are reading it than have 7 million people buying it who I know are only buying it because they think it's going to be hot, or think it's going to be an investment. Every once in a while, the reality of that slams home. I mean, with Namor, I have a critical success, but it's a financial atrocity.
Oh, really?
It's just dying horribly. Somebody commented today that they had heard from somebody at Marvel that it was selling, before they took it off the newsstands, it was selling 3,000 copies on the newsstands, which meant like 1 copy per city, which is little on the downside. The She-Hulk is the same, but I said that's one of the reasons I'm doing the X-Men, because it will subsidize Namor and She-Hulk, so I can continue to do the stuff that I really want to do, and those people who want to buy the stuff that I really want to do will be able to still buy it. I won't have to do a Wolverine Punisher graphic novel just to stay in, with my head above water.
Well, what kind of changes are you going to bring to the X-Men when you start?
I can't bring a great deal, simply because I'm not really plotting it. I've introduced a couple of plot lines that I want to develop. We're going to annihilate virtually all the mutants. And we're going to be messing around with the Archangel character. I told Bob Harris that if he would let me mess with Archangel, I would shave the beast. It was a trade.
That's a nice deal.
Yeah, it was a fair trade. But mostly it's Jim Lee and Will Spartaccio who are doing the actual plotting, and provided that they don't self-destruct, by which I mean the 3rd issue of X-Men is on sale. I've written the 4th one, and I haven't seen page 1 of the 5th one.
Wow.
So it's incredibly tight, and that doesn't do my nerves any good at all. So I don't know what it's doing to Jimmy Wells.
When's the last time you ever worked on a book that you weren't writing?
That I wasn't writing? Boy, I guess that would be Legends.
Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it? Well, I'm curious as to how you actually work. I mean, when you're working, I wonder how your relationship is with an editor. How much?
Usually hostile.
How much do you actually send them? I mean, do you send just finished artwork, or do you send plots and analysis?
I talk things over with my editors, and I frequently send them what I call overviews, which is like a little paragraph that says, in this issue this, in this issue this, in this issue this, and I update the overviews sort of twice a year as things mutate and change. But basically, especially when I was doing Namor, for example, I was lettering it myself. Terry Cavanaugh was just getting finished art. Here, Terry, print it. And I thanked him for that many times. I thanked him for the obvious, gigantic trust that's implicit in that. That I get to send him a finished page. And of course, on the next Men, I send him a finished page because I'm God. And, nobody at Dark Horse can touch it. They can't even change my spelling if I don't let them. But at Marvel and DC, it's a good interactive thing. When I was doing OMAC with Jonathan Peterson, I'd call him up this editor. He's terrified if he gets a call from his freelancers because he knows it's a problem.
Right.
Something's wrong. And I would always call him up and say, Jonathan, it's not a problem, but I think I want to take the story a little bit to the left of where we were originally planning. And once he calmed down, he'd say, oh, okay.
Olmec is another example of one of the Kirby books that you've taken over. And Next Men, to me, seems like another attempt to create your own universe. That's all your own.
Yeah, it's like, it hit me that I'm 41 years old. So I am now exactly the same age that Stan was when he and Jack created the Fantastic Four. So I sort of said to myself, I've got this range. I've got from when I'm 41 to when I'm 45, which is how old Jack was. I've got that space to create the Fantastic Four.
Right.
And that's really what the Next Men is meant to be. It's much more the Fantastic Four in my head than it is the X-Men, which is the obvious.
Or perhaps the New Gods.
The New Gods, well, more the Forever People, but it's pulling all the stuff I like together and putting it into one package, which hopefully will be its own self. It won't just be obviously derivative from everything in the world.
Well, what else do you have in terms of the future? Anything that would surprise us coming up?
Surprise you? Well, I just did a screen treatment for a Silver Surfer movie.
Oh, right. I was going to ask about that. I mean, the comics industry glorifies the media tie-in, and I wondered if there was some film work in works for you or not.
Yeah, nothing really amazing. They put me in a corner and they threw a lot of money at me, which is what they did on Superman 4 too, as a matter of fact. And they will probably use about as much of my Silver Surfer treatment as they used in Superman 4, which is nothing. But it was fun, and it's always fun to play the Hollywood game every once in a while, just to remind me how much I don't want to do that.
Right.
My second novel is coming out in March from Bantam Doubleday Dell. And beyond that, the comic stuff is going ahead. I'm paring down my drawing because I've always really thought of myself as a writer who draws. So I'm focusing more and more on the writing.
You were writing Iron Man.
The Avengers. Now we're scripting the 2 X-Men books. I'm going to be just scripting Namor as of issue 26. I'm going to continue drawing She-Hulk because it's a lot of fun. And I'm going to be drawing and writing the next one.
Well, hopefully we won't hear about a nervous breakdown.
No, I did that about 10 years ago. So I know the signs to look out for.
Good. Well, good luck, John, and thanks for talking to us today.
Well, thanks for...
Good luck with all the projects.
Oh, thank you.
Good.